No deliberations.
The verdict is in.
This is Vibes Only, unanimously understood to be everyone's favorite political podcast, checking the vibes of American politics every single week. And the vibes this week:
Count 33 and 34 guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts.
We'll do what we do best and check in on the vibes across the political spectrum after Trump became the first former president in U.S. history to become a convicted felon.
Then we'll discuss an eyebrow-raising report from ProPublica about Trump's sweetheart treatment of 9 witnesses in his ongoing criminal trials.
Then we'll talk about the Right to Contraception Act VOTE that Senator Chuck Schumer is calling today.
Finally, we'll play an It's Giving, bring in your responses to our last group chat, and leave you with a good vibe. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it, Brian. I'm exhausted already. I also have to say, I said Trump's not going to get fully convicted. I'm like, maybe 4 of the 34. Where were you when you found out that Trump was guilty of all 34?
It was the craziest 3 hours of my life. I was supposed to be packing and heading to the airport right when the jury decided to render a verdict. And so my whole day was like blown up. I made my flight by, I think, 6 minutes.
Oh my God, that's stressful.
Because I was like churning out all this content of like guilty.
You went live. Yeah, you went live like right after. You're probably supposed to be on the way to the airport.
That's why I can't believe you're saying you're exhausted. What a time to be alive. We are now living in the era of the first ever conviction of a former president. Donald Trump was obviously, you had to have heard by now, convicted on all 34 charges in the New York case, which is likely the only verdict we're going to get pre-November election. So this is a really big deal. And I felt energized in a certain way. Well, I feel like we do not know, and let's talk about what the political ramifications are, but like we do not know what this is going to do to his chances in November yet. We have polling that says one thing. We sort of have the vibes and the internet, which is potentially saying a different thing. We have the fundraising numbers to talk about.
Right.
But for me, more than anything else, it just raises the stakes because we know that Trump is on a war path for revenge after this. And so he was like, the real verdict will be in November. And I'm like, that is, well, it's both because this verdict is real. And also that is true in the sense of like, we should kind of be afraid of what he's going to try to do if he wins. Like the stakes are even higher. The stakes are even higher.
I mean, right after the verdict came down, he came and did one of his like hallway pressers with like no sound. It's like so depressing and echoey. And he's like, it's a rigged, I'm a political prisoner. America has gone to hell. That should be his new campaign slogan. America has gone to hell. Thanks to me, Donald Trump, 2024.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, but the version of America that they are selling is so dark, both in how they see the country now and what they want for our country's future is very dark. And this only heightens their commitment to the dystopian narrative.
Right, this narrative of they can do it to Donald Trump, they can do it to you. And it's like this, not us versus them necessarily, but it is a you as an American versus the criminal justice system or democracy in full, and creating this false narrative that government is not to be trusted.
Well, this trial has been rigged from the beginning, and it has been concocted by Joe Biden and the corrupt Democrat Party. And if they can do this to President Trump, they can do it to anyone.
Yeah, and I have to agree with them. If you have sex with a porn star and then give a hush money payment in violation of campaign finance laws, and then falsify business records to cover it up, you also may be convicted of crimes that you just committed. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
What are you literally talking about? Of course, like there's no infamous them coming after the everyday American citizen who didn't do these things. He's not being prosecuted for his political beliefs. He is being prosecuted for a crime that there is an abundance of evidence that he committed, and the prosecution has been working through the system for years. This is not some extrajudicial thing. This is not some Biden kangaroo court.
Right.
This is exactly how the system is designed to work, to hold people accountable who commit crimes. You're welcome.
Right. And just to add to that, in the court case, like, is a jury of your peers. Like, the prosecution and the defense has the opportunity to choose the jurors. Like, it's not like these fake people that were put in place to come down with this verdict. So I think we also have a clip of how Fox News, who's aligned with Trump in the campaign, reacted.
I have a travel advisory for New York City. If you're a conservative or a Republican or a Trump supporter, beware. In the weaponized Biden criminal justice system, well, political differences are now considered especially heinous. And if New York's powerful Democrats hate your politics, well, a prison cell might well be in your future or some kind of conviction for something, well, that they make up.
But the only thing Trump's guilty of is beating Hillary and leading Joe Biden.
A gut punch to the criminal justice system in the United States. People realize we are no longer safe anymore, and it's because of the progressive left agenda.
Democrats have shown us who they really are. They don't intend to give up power, not ever. And funny, that's what they like to accuse Trump of.
What are they talking about? Sean Hannity fully stealing a line from Law and Order SVU also.
Okay, to Laura Ingram's point, nobody wants to give up power, right? The difference is Democrats won elections in 2018 and in 2020 and in 2022 and in 2023. Like, we've been sort of running the board minus the House in 22, and Republicans don't want to give up power. And rather than win elections, they want to instill and cement minority rule through unfair systems and the judicial system.
Right.
And so it is very gaslighty, and I don't use the word lovely, but like, it's very gaslighty to be like, this is about Democrats trying to like cling to power in some way, when look at the scoreboard.
I know.
Like, we don't need to do any of that. Like, we're winning election.
Well,
that's how we stay in power.
Republicans cheat because they can't win. That's a Eric Holder quote that I stand by, because they're cheaters. So what's next, Brian? We have sentencing July 11th. And right after that sentencing, which I don't even know if this is a good or bad thing, because it's going to give them like ammo either way. The Republicans will go to their RNC, their convention, July 15th through the 18th, and the sentencing is July 11th. Prison time is on the table, but I doubt he's going to get that. It's like 1 to 4 years are possible. And it will also likely go to appeals as well.
I agree that it's unlikely he sees jail time, although we both said it was unlikely he was going to be convicted on all 34. So I think that there's also just like a certain amount of pessimism as to how the system can really work to hold him accountable. But we shall see. That's only a month away. So we do know for sure that that is going to be a fundraising bonanza. He raised $50 million in the day after the conviction,
His
which
website
is
crashed.
Bananas, like really bananas, which we talked about last time, right? Like, we knew that there was going to be this political backlash to accountability happening, but we know that in combination with the RNC, like, it's kind of their dream scenario.
Totally.
It's because they're running as victims. They're like, let's get the most sympathetic optics we possibly can, which is Trump being sentenced for this mythological political
witch hunt.
Right, exactly. And then suddenly get all of our donors and political operatives in one place to yell about it. It's going to be ugly.
I mean, he went on his social and already posted a graphic that he's a political prisoner. I'm curious. I don't have an answer. This is just
he's not in prison.
I know, exactly. Like, do you want to go? You want to go? Is he going to have like a Lindsay Lohan surfboard moment where he had like the ankle brace on for probation? If he goes to the RNC, right? So like, what if he's this is me living in my like internet meme fantasy world, which is if he's sentenced to like house arrest or like Trump Tower arrest or like something like that. And then he has an ankle monitor and then he flies. Cause I think you are allowed for certain reasons to fly in and out of state if you have like your like a guard with you or something. I mean, like, that's when America, I think, really would implode. If he's, at the RNC with an ankle monitor. I am making this up. I do not know if this is factual or it could even be reality, but my internet brain is like, wouldn't that be good for content?
It would be good for content. I think it would be bad for Joe Biden. Okay, so you said sentencing is happening on July 11th.
Yes.
We'll know officially what happens then. I did get a million questions right after. Does this mean he can't run for president? Does this mean he can't serve as president? How could someone convicted of crimes be president? He absolutely can still run and be president. If you have not read that anywhere yet, the Constitution sets out the requirements for someone to be president, and it says nothing about felony convictions. So that does not preclude you from being president. And there was also a lot of talk about whether it precludes you from voting and whether he would be able to actually vote for himself. So Trump votes in Florida. And in Florida, if you are convicted of a felony out of state, it depends on that state's laws. And in New York, you can vote as a convicted felon as long as you're not in prison and therefore have served your time. And so he likely will be able to vote in November in Florida unless he's actively serving a prison sentence in New York.
I just want to double down on the narrative opportunity that this conviction has given Republicans. Tim Scott, who we've talked about on the pod, who is a contender for VP, who previously had failed to acknowledge that he would in fact certify or agree with an election if Joe Biden were to win. He doubled down on this narrative that building this distrust with the system for Trump voters.
This verdict has actually brought unifying our party. Without any question, what we've seen is never Trumpers calling me and saying, Tim, I'm on the bandwagon now. I've seen this two-tier justice system working against the president of the United States. It could work against me too.
Imagine believing that there's a two-tiered system of justice in the country and that one of the tiers is to specifically attack rich billionaires in New York.
Right.
Yeah, we do have a two-tiered system of justice. It's for rich people and poor people. And guess which side of the fence Donald Trump is on?
Period. So let's see if that, I guess, only time will tell what the political realities are of this conviction and if Dems are able to catch up with the narrative that the Republicans are really laying the groundwork for right now. Speaking of Trump's trials, ProPublica came out with an article that lifted the hood on the criminal cases against Donald Trump and about 9 witnesses who received new jobs, shares in companies, board seats on Trump Media's company, campaign jobs, etc. And that's really sus.
Very sus. Yeah, so we obviously have a verdict and a settled outcome in the New York case, but we still have the Mar-a-Lago federal trial. We still have the January 6th Jack Smith federal trial. We still have the Georgia election interference case. There are lots of pending criminal trials against Trump. And it sounds like they are throwing around cash at witnesses it would give the appearance of trying to buy favorable testimony.
Yeah.
Is what it looks like.
Or witness tamper, which as far as this brain is concerned is illegal.
That future Supreme Court Justice brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hard at work here, and I'm pretty sure witness tampering is a no-go in the criminal justice system. So some examples. Campaign aide Boris Epstein, he had his average monthly pay double from $26,000 a month to $53,500 a month.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
That's the median annual salary for most Americans. That's what they're making in a year for their family.
Alan Weisselberg, he was a former Trump executive, got a $2 million severance package, barring him from voluntarily cooperating with law enforcement. So that was in his deal, $2 million.
How is that even legal?
I don't know. How do you get a severance package and they say, but in this, you can't cooperate with the law?
That's
no.
Real wild to me.
I'm sure that doesn't hold. Susie Wiles was one of campaign's top officials, had her daughter hired onto Trump's campaign staff, and now her daughter is the 4th highest paid employee on staff.
I would love to see a Republican family tree and just show us all of the individuals who are spouses of Republican operatives and elected officials hired by other sketchy organizations and paid outrageous sums.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Ginny Thomas consulting for groups and being paid outrageous sums for it. Clarence Thomas's wife. Josh Hawley's wife, who's also, I believe, an attorney, has been hired by lots of dark money and far-right Republican groups and paid huge sums to fight cases for them. And it's it's interesting where the money is flowing into all these joint accounts.
Right.
That's curious.
Yeah. And it's just very convenient that all of these pay increases or job benefits or favors were given at very delicate times in the trial. So one aide was given a position on the board of Trump's Truth Social. He got the seat after he was subpoenaed, but before he testified. So imagine if you're just a human being and you're subpoenaed by, grand jury or however it works. And then in between that, and when you're supposed to testify, someone gives you a really nice job.
Totally. So it seems that Trump's not too happy about ProPublica doing this investigative reporting on all of these compensatory packages that they're sending to witnesses. And David Warrington, who was representing Trump as his attorney, sent ProPublica a cease and desist letter demanding that the article not be published and warned that if they did publish, that President Trump will evaluate all legal remedies.
Okay.
So
Go for it.
basically threatening them with a lawsuit.
Okay, that's so delusional. Like, there are journalistic standards and ethics to publishing, pieces like this where there are multiple people vetted and sources vetted by different varying levels of deep background, on the record, etc. ProPublica wouldn't publish this if they didn't have the receipts.
They love receipts. They are printing receipts over there. They're the ones who did all the Clarence Thomas stuff. Like, I love it. And so to your point on witness tampering, this is not the first time that Trump has been in trouble for this type of behavior. If we think back to during the hearings on the January 6th attack on the Capitol, a former White House staffer during the Trump administration got a call literally the night before she had an interview with the January 6th investigators telling her, we know you'll, quote, do the right thing tomorrow, and that you're going to protect him and the boss. That's a direct quote. And so they've been trying to influence testimony from the very beginning. And let's just get a quick cut to the clips that we just heard of all the Fox News hosts saying that the system is rigged against Trump while he has people literally calling, intimidating, and bribing witnesses. So it's very much the pot calling the kettle black.
Hypocrite. So there's many assumptions I think Americans make that we have a right to something. One of those things being contraception. And that is just not true. Because in 2022, 195 House Republicans voted against your right to condoms, the pill, IUDs, aka contraception. So they don't want you to have that right. So today on Capitol Hill, the Senate is voting on a new bill, the Right to Contraception Act.
Yeah, and it's not a messaging bill, as they're called, where you're just trying to stake out a position on an issue. It's necessary because we literally have, from the mouth of the horse, Clarence Thomas being the horse, that they are coming after the jurisprudence, after the Supreme Court cases that had established a right to contraception via the right to privacy. It's the same legal argument that was used to strike down sodomy laws in Lawrence v. Texas in 2003. It goes all the way back to, I believe, 1965 was the Griswold case that said Americans do have a fundamental right to privacy. And that leads to the right to have an abortion. That leads to the right to marry who you want to marry, all of these things. And so Justice Clarence Thomas wrote, when he overturned Roe v. Wade, that the bench should reconsider, quote, all of this court's substantive due process precedents. And those would be the same cases that included birth control and marriage equality.
In this bill, Brian, what it would actually do if it became law, it guarantees the legal right for individuals to get and use contraception and for healthcare providers to provide contraception, information, referrals, and services related to contraception. So that's like when you're at the doctor's office and you look on the wall and it's like, here's what condoms do. Imagine not having those in a doctor's office.
Absolutely. I mean, there's an entire segment of the far right movement that wants to classify birth control as a forever chemical and make it not available to people.
Yeah, the bill continues that it would prohibit the federal government and any state from administering or enforcing any law, rule, or regulation to prohibit or restrict the sale or use of contraception. And it would allow the Justice Department, providers, and individuals harmed by restrictions on contraception to go to court to enforce those rights. It's really a little bit like, what? That's not already protected in this country, but it's not. So Senator Chuck Schumer from the great state of New York, he's bringing this bill to the floor because he wants receipts. He wants Senate receipts of where people stand on this right to contraception. I think there's this cultural idea that contraception is just a women's issue, but no, it includes condoms and it includes basic health care. Condoms are not just to prevent pregnancies, they're to prevent STIs, etc. So that's a vote today. So if you want to call your senator and tell them to vote, make sure they vote to support contraception, I would encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. I think that people get really frustrated by the lack of progress on some of the issues that they care the most about, and they want to see like positive forward motion from the progressive movement on like really fundamental things like fair wages and guaranteed health care and like the list goes on. But these are the moments where I'm reminded that while we can do two things at the same time, we can't forget that we have a lot of Republicans trying to take a wrecking ball to the state of things as they are now. And so while we have to keep pushing to fight forward, like we can't let what exists now, including the right to contraception, the right to privacy, be demolished.
Right.
While we are not paying attention.
Right. And this goes back to the Heritage Foundation of it all and the Leonard Leo of it all, the Project 2025 of it all. There's this machine, this conservative machine that is funneling hundreds of millions of dollars to take away basic rights in this country to create American universe that is rooted in Christian nationalist conservative values, including taking away your right to contraception. It's giving. We're going to talk about Trump's convictions, so we're going to bring it back. And we're going to bring it back to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is always giving something, so let's see what she's giving us this week.
We're not a serious country anymore. We're literally a banana republic. So what does it matter funding the government? The American people don't give a shit.
Yikes. Yikes. It's giving senioritis.
It's giving she doesn't know the definition of banana republic. It's giving
I think
she thinks Banana Republic is a clothing store.
I think that it's giving a peek behind the curtain because that actually explains a lot of Marjorie Taylor Greene's behavior, is that she thinks that Americans just don't care and don't want to have a government.
Right.
Because that's how she acts all the time.
Right. It's giving pick me also. Like she just gives pick me so hard all day, every day, whether it be like her workout photos or like videos or her like praying at the altar of Donald Trump. It's like, we see you. We see what you're doing. You're not the woman.
Yeah. It's definitely giving preview of 2025 if Republicans control the White House and the House of Representatives, because we have seen Marjorie Taylor Greene get so much more powerful over the last year or two. She really defines a lot of their platform at present in the House. And with Trump in office, there will be nothing to keep her crazy in check.
Yeah, she's minority rule at its worst. Okay, Brian, we got some responses to our Vibes Only group chat question, which is if you could intervene in one moment in history, assuming the rules of time travel are like nothing is affected like horribly, what would you do?
There were some really interesting ones. We got way more than I anticipated, and there were some really good ones. One of my favorites, I would say, was stop the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., because that train was going somewhere. It would be so interesting to know like what he would have accomplished in the rest of his life.
Yeah. We have one in that same tone. They would have stopped the assassination of Abe Lincoln. All of U.S. history post-Civil War would have turned out differently if he had survived and carried out through to Reconstruction.
Totally. Definitely a lot of assassination prevention ones.
I like this one.
Oh, right.
If I could go back in time, I'd cancel The Apprentice after season 1. Maybe that would cancel Cheeto before all the drama. I kind of agree. I think he got a taste of the spotlight and he was ready to rumble.
Yeah. You could also go back and interrupt the Seth Meyers White House Correspondents' Dinner Trump roast, which also was like said to be one of the moments that pushed him to run. People also said that they would convince Mark Zuckerberg to attend culinary school instead of Harvard and prevent the creation of Facebook, which is a good one.
My friend had one that was kind of like yours, but a little different, which was they would have made sure Hitler got into art school and like graduated from art school. And then maybe that path would have been different for him if he was just embraced for his creative, whatever he was. I don't even know, but
that's very magnanimous, and I prefer my strategy.
Yeah.
We also had some very kind messages sent our way. So thank you all for that. Please review if you are enjoying the pod and it is saving your mental health this year. Reviews actually really help. So go review us on whatever platform you listen to. But someone wrote in and said, as you may well be aware, there's a fantasy survivor league, and it might be fun to have a vibes only bracket. Also, please audition Brian. And if you don't, I will. So Travis, I think that you should audition.
Yeah.
I will see how John Lovett does next season, and then I'll decide. But we should definitely do a bracket next season. I'm totally down.
We'll all see. We could do a Vibes only live recording pre-Survivor into Survivor watch party. We're big Survivor fans.
We are stands around here.
What
else was in your group chat?
Well, Pride. I got a lot of Pride stuff. Happy Pride.
Did you see that a drag queen won their defamation suit against a far-right farmer? That made me really happy. Over $1 million.
Trump is on TikTok. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see someone sent it to me while I was on my out of office, and I said, nope.
Yeah.
Not today.
Not today. I think it will be good for him because he has such a strong, at least in my algorithm and in my comments, there's a very strong conservative Trump talk presence. So now they actually have the person that they're supporting to follow. I do think it allows Dems to have a new vertical of content, which is stitching or reacting to things that Trump is saying on the app, as opposed to having to like bring in content and respond to things he's saying. You could literally just stitch it or respond to the video.
Well, we will leave the group chat with, is there something that you feel like gives you away as an American when you're abroad?
I love this question. So when I studied abroad for the year, my junior year, that's why I'm so insufferable, by the way, is because I studied abroad and I came back and I was like, oh, my flat. Oh, I'm on holiday. I'm in hospital. At that point, it was sneakers and jeans. Like if you were wearing sneakers and jeans, sneens as we called it, you are like totally an American. But now sneakers are in vogue. They have been for years now. So that's less of a giveaway. Loud talking. I think if you're speaking very loudly, it's pretty clear you're an American.
I am so embarrassed by this. I can't believe I'm actually going to say it, but I am truly a very considerate person. I'm very Midwestern and like...
You're very sweet.
Manners mean a lot to me. I was just having a grand old time catching up with a friend at a restaurant in London, and the table next to us moved.
Because you were too loud.
Because we were being too loud.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm the ugly American. I cannot believe this is happening in real time.
Okay. Wow. I didn't realize I was gonna call you out there, but that's like, it's a real thing.
Really did.
To our American listeners, which I assume are all of you, you'll notice it if you leave the country that Americans are loud. We're loud people.
I was like, come back. I swear I can be quieter.
It's like really mortifying because you're like, wait, what? Am I screaming? But it's the American way that like if you're at a dinner and like someone's talking, you talk louder, and then you talk louder, and then you get excited. That is a real thing.
Yeah. If you, as a listener, if you have been abroad and were called out for being American, or you entered a room and someone knew that you were American immediately, I want to know why.
Yeah.
Because I've tried very hard to blend in, and we need all the tips on how to camouflage as locals. Link is at the top of our show notes to send us your response.
Okay. Good vibe. Goodbye. In case you missed it, and TBD if this is Taylor Swift's impact. I think it might be, but the DOJ has brought an antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation, which is the parent company of Ticketmaster, in an effort to break them up. We have an antitrust moment. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, says the goal is to encourage more competition. Ticketmaster, this is shocking, Brian, Ticketmaster controls 70% of the market share. Concert tickets are outrageously expensive. Ticket prices for the top 100 tours went up 46% from 2022 to 2023. When you were talking about your rent last week, tickets, if I want to go see a show, the fees and the service charges are astronomical. Fees and ticket resales can push the price way, way up from there. So that was the issue with Taylor Swift. If you recall, the pre-sale sold out almost immediately, and then tickets jumped from, $120 to like $5,000. And people were like, this can't be. So no competition, no real pressure to fix these issues. So let's bring in more competition, yada, yada, yada. Let's go. I would enjoy a cheaper ticket.
The Biden administration has pushed really hard on the antitrust front. And if you're someone who sees how capitalism has sort of gone off the rails, and we have a few companies controlling huge markets and really hurting the average consumer, then this is exactly the type of change that we need. And we need to be more aggressive on this front. So it's great to see DOJ filing this lawsuit, and hopefully we will all be jam in to Taylor Swift and Beyonce at their concerts in the future with lower fees and lower ticket prices.
And Gaga 7 this year.
Oh my, don't tease me.